All right, let's see if we can get through this. I'm going to show you what we demoed in class today. Should be pretty easy. So I'm going to start by grabbing a router. I like this 1941. I'm going to put that out. I'll grab another router, put that out. Okay. And then I'm going to grab a couple switches. So I come down here. I'm going to grab these 2960s, and I'll put two of those out here like so. And then I'm going to grab some PCs. I'm going to grab a server. And I'll grab a PC, and I'll grab another PC, and let's just get crazy and add a new server, like so. All right, now I'm going to connect them all together. So I can do most of these connections. I'm just going to throw with the auto connect, at least to the switch. All right, so I'm going to connect those three like so. Okay, now I'm going to straight through this. I'm going to go down and pick a gigabit, and I'm going to go to 0, 0. I like 0, 0 on the what I call the outside. So I'm going to do the same thing here, gigabit, and go to 0, 0 on the outside. And then I'm going to cross over and go to 0, 1 to 0, 1. All right, so that's not, you don't have to do that, but I like to do that so that I know which ones are on which side as I configure them. Okay. Notice I have these port numbers showing. That's important. If you go to options, preferences, make sure this is checked, always show, and you'll get that like that. All right. So let's add a couple notes. First note, I'm going to make this server here 192.168.34. Let's call it 8. And that's going to be my DHCP server. And then this server here will be 192.168.34.11. And that will be my DNS and HTTP server. Okay. And then this PC over here will be 192.168. Let's call this 15.22. And then this port right here, this gig 01 port on this side will be 9.0.0. Let's go 3. All right, so we have those. With those numbers, there's 3 networks here, right? So let me just show you what the networks look like. So we have one network here, one network here, and one network here. Okay, so we have 3 networks. And if we want, we can look at the different 3 networks, right? So this network here, we can identify as 192.168.34. And actually, the network ID for that would be 34.0. This network here would be 9.0.0.0. And this network ID, meaning the ID for that whole network, would be 192.168.15.0. Okay? Those are our 3 networks. And what we're trying to figure out, let me just move those like that. So these boxes don't matter, these little notes don't matter, stuff like that. But what we're trying to figure out is we want to figure out what port this is, since that's our default gateway, and what port this needs to be, since we already know what port that needs to be, and then what port this needs to be as the default gateway for this side. Okay, so let me add a couple more PCs over here. Shouldn't matter. All right, add that, add a laptop. Okay, come over here and just connect all those into the switch, just so we can kind of prove that this whole network will work on this side, like so. Pretty easy. All right, fast forward, make them all go green. Okay, so we have kind of our network. First thing I want to do, I want to set up this server. So I start with server 0. I click on server 0, I go to desktop, IP config, and I'm going to put in this server's name. And its name or identifier for the whole network is its IP address, 192.168.34.8. Okay, so let me put the dot there. All right, 34.8. Subnet mask, autofills, default gateway. Now, default gateway is this network. How does it leave the network? It all goes through this port right here. Okay, this port right here. So to get to this port, I always like to go network ID with a 1 on the end. So that default gateway is 192.168.34.1. The DNS server. I can look, and of all my servers, which I have 2 of them, which one is the DNS server? It's this one here. It says DNS. So the DNS server is 192.168.34.11. Just like that. Now, services. For server 0, the service I need is DHCP. Okay, so I can click that. Now, services, DHCP. I turn it on. I've got two networks. So the first default gateway is 192.168.34.1. DNS server, 192.168.34.11. Now, what is this doing? With it turned on, and as a new computer gets added to the network, it's going to go out and it's going to grab, it will assign it the default gateway and the DNS server. And we'll start with like 20 for this, and we click save. And if we make this bigger, we can see that all of this information's been filled out. Okay, so server 0 is configured. Okay, so let's close that. Now let's go to server 1. Server 1, start with desktop, IP config. I've given you the IP address, 192.168.34.11. Subnet mask is default. The default gateway, 192.168.34.1. We take the network ID and we make it a 1 right here by this thing here. Okay, DNS server, 192.168.34.11. We just come down here, we look which one is our DNS server. It's this one. Set it as the DNS server. Okay. All right. This has been configured. Now let's go to services. For the services, it's DNS HTTP. HTTP is here. Here's our index file. That's our home page. If I click edit, I can put something here. Let's just put Jones County. All right. Since we're in Jones County, we'll say Jones County. Okay. Jones County. And since we like cross country, we'll go cross country. All right, Jones County cross country. We click save. It says, do you want to overwrite? Yeah, let's overwrite. So on the web server itself, we just overrode that. Okay, we can go back to file manager. There's that one right there. Now let's just add a new file and we'll call it hounds.html and just be like hello hounds. Click save and go back to file manager, and here's hounds.html. All right, so we're good for right now. Let's check this. Let's make sure things work. DNS on. Let's make our first record, jonescounty.com, and let's send it to 192.168.34.11. All right, add. All right, that's it. I was just checking to see what these other ones are. That we're good on that. We have this, jonescounty.com, done, easy. The HTTP is good, DNS is good, very easy. We can close that. Let's test it. I haven't set anything else up yet. Let's test it. I go up here to this PC. First thing I want to do is I want to get the IP address. I go DHCP, and it should get it from the 34 network, set it at 20. Okay, now I close that. I go to the web browser, and I can type in the server. All right, let's put the server in, 192.168.34.11, Jones County cross country. Let's actually type the DNS in, jonescounty.com. All right, that's good. And now let's add /hounds.html. And know with the /, that's a file that's sitting there called hounds.html. It says hello hounds. When it's without a /, it automatically finds the index file. If you put the file name, it'll give you the file name, but you got to / that in front of it. So without a file name, it just defaults to index.html. With the file name, it'll show the file name. A little bit of extra there for you. All right. So now we need to do part 2. We need to configure these two routers and see if this over here works. If I click on this guy over here, it's going to say IP address DHCP. It's going to give me the PIPA failure. It is going to fail out. It doesn't know because first off, it can't get through the routers, and the DHCP server is sitting right over here. Okay, so let's first come back to our DHCP server, and let's set up that service again, and let's add a second pool. So second pool, and we notice this is the 15 network over here. So let's change this to the default gateway of 15. DNS server stays the same. Let's add that to 15 here and just click add, and it's down here. Okay, so we have both those set up. Everything looks good. Let's make this big so you can see it. All right, everything looks good. So let's close that. And we come over here and it still doesn't work. It still shouldn't work. right? Go back to static, click on DHCP. It should still not work because the routers haven't been set up. It can't get to the DHCP server. Okay, so a PIPA means it failed. All right, now let's click on our first router. So our first router, we're going to configure the 00 interface, this side. So click 00, turn it on, and set the IP address, 192.168.34.1. I got that from this port right here. I hit tab, and it fills in the IP address for the subnet mask. Okay, and notice it did it all down here also. So I click on 01, turn it on, it ran the command, put the IP address in, and I actually gave you the IP address of this side. It's 9.0.0.3. So let's go 9.0.0.3, and it will fill in the IP address automatically. I'm going to copy that because when I rip it, I want to just add it and rip it. Notice it strips off the 3 because it gives you the network ID. Come here, do the same thing for this one, copy it, and rip it, add it. I should have both networks. It should have the network that touches this side, which is here, and the network that touches this side, which is here. All right, so it has both of those. This router is configured. All right, now let's configure this router. All right, so we go on this side. We'll configure the 01 side first. So we go over here, we turn it on, and we put in its IP address, 9.0.0. And it doesn't matter. It could be 1, 2, 4, or 5. It can't be 3, and it can go all the way up to 255. So I'm going to go 9.0.0.2. Keep it simple. All right, so that one's done. And then we need to do the other side. So let me scroll over this way a little bit, and let's do this side. This side is 15.0, so we'll go turn it on. 192.168. Let's put the dot in there. .168.15.1. Okay, so that side is done. So now we have this side done and this side done. Okay, now we need to rip them. So I'm going to copy that, go to rip, add it, do the same thing on the other side. Oh, let's do on the 01 side. Okay, copy the 902, rip, add it. So both those are there. Now remember, the last thing we need to do, okay, is we need to go back into this router, and we need to say all these computers on this side need to know where the DHCP server is. So we have to, on this port here, if anybody here asks for the DHCP server, when I set this to DHCP, I click this little button, it's not going to know where it is because it can't find the DHCP server over here. So this port right here, we need to assign it a little thing that says, hey, here's a secret. The DHCP server is sitting over here. So if we click back on the router, we click on, let's just look at the port number. We notice it's 00. We click on port 00. Notice it says sysconfig, blah, blah, blah. We click it a bunch of times till it actually pops out this config if. We go back to the CLI, and we type in IP helper address with a dash. Okay, I'll get off there so you can see it. And it's 192.168.34.8, our DHCP server, which is right here. So we just type that in just like that, and we click enter. And that loads. So then we check it. So we can close that. We go over here to the PC. We go to IP address, and it still says 13.5053. So we can come over here and we can say DHCP, and then it went all the way through. Okay, it's supposed to say 15.20 because over here, that's what it's supposed to get. So the DHCP server gives it an IP address, it tells it its subnet mask, gives it its default gateway, and it does the DNS server. If this worked correctly and the DNS server was configured correctly, when I go out to the web browser, I should be able to type in jonescounty.com, and it should work. So jonescounty.com. Click go, and it goes. jonescounty.com. I could also go /hounds.html, and it should say hello hounds. So from PC over on this side, PC3, that worked. Now if I click on this PC, I should be able to see if it works. So I go to desktop, web browser. Wait for it. It opens up. I can go 192.168.34.11. That's my web server. I can click enter. I can click go. Nothing's going to happen. What did I do wrong? So I'm like, this isn't working. This isn't working. This isn't working. Let me close that down. Go stay on the desktop. Click IP config. And I don't have any IP addresses in here. It doesn't even know, this computer doesn't even know what the default gateway is supposed to be. How is it supposed to find a web server if it doesn't even know how to get off the network? So if I click DHCP, it goes out, gets an IP address. All right, now when I go back to that web, let's open it back up. Wait for it for a second. And type in jonescounty.com. Click go. It actually goes through and finds it. Okay, and I could do that same thing with all the PCs all the way down. So I go to IP config, DHCP, wait for a second, that one's done, and do the same thing with the laptop. IP config, wait for a second. All right, that one's done. Okay, now we've talked about this logical layout. We haven't talked about the physical layout. The physical layout is going to be crazy. So if I go over to physical, I click on the home city, I've got one corporate office. I'm going to probably need a second office because everything is in one office. Okay. So what I'm going to want to do is add a second corporate office. And I think it's this one adds the other office. Okay. And I can come in here and say, this is Atkinson Hall. And this one is, I don't know, Parks Hall. Wait, Parks Hall, just like so. So it has in here, let me zoom out a little bit. It does not have a wiring closet, so we need to add a wiring closet. All right, so this is create a new generic container, create a new closet. So we have our closet. Let's put our closet in this little room here. All right, so we have our closet. That's good, and that's in Parks Hall. And if we click on, let's zoom out here, go into this one, zoom out again. Here's this wiring closet. So if you look at our logical location, our servers should both be in that room, and router 0 should be in that room. So let's go back over here, click on this. We have both of our servers, but we also have both routers. So let's take router 1 and let's move it. So we're going to click on the move, which is here, and we say we want to move this router to the other city, to Parks Hall, to their wiring closet. Okay, and we want to do the same thing with the switch. So we click that, we click the switch, move over to the other wiring closet. Okay, so we have one router, one switch, and both servers. All right, now we come back over here and we can start seeing that we have a lot of these PCs are connected to the other switch. So we need to move each of these to the other building. So then we only have this one connection goes from this wiring closet to the other wiring closet. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it to Parks Hall. And I'm just going to do the same thing with this one. Move that to Parks Hall. And I'm going to do that same thing here. Move that to Parks Hall. And I'm going to do that to this here. Move that to Parks Hall. All right. So now when we come in, this will look a little bit cleaner. It just has one PC and the wiring closet with both servers in it, and then a connection that goes through back over to Parks Hall. And we can put this laptop in this room, here, here, and here, and it's all wired up, and just one thing is leaving. Okay, and if you click on this in here, you have your router and your switch. All right, so physically speaking, that works well. It doesn't change anything on this side, the logical side, but the physical side also looks well, looks done right, and so does this other side here. All right, what you could also do is change the names. You can call this like DHCP server, something like that. And when you go into physical and go back to here and into the wiring closet, it should say DHCP server as a label on that. So you could relabel DNS and the HTTP server, and I think it will let you do underscores. It might even let you do spaces. Yep, it looks like it lets you do spaces too. So let's just put a space there, and let's put a space here, and let's just see how that looks. Yeah, that looks nice. It adds a nice little label to both of those. Okay, and you can actually call this one Atkinson switch and Atkinson router if you wanted to. So anyway, I hope that helps. That goes through the whole process of setting up everything and making things work. And if you have any questions, make sure you come and see me.